It was a bitter December morning in New York City, the kind that sank into your bones and made steam curl up from manholes like ghosts in mourning. On Madison Avenue, people shuffled in wool coats and designer scarves, gripping coffee cups as if they held something more than caffeine, like a shield against loneliness. Ethan Maddox didn't usually walk. Not because he didn't like walking, but because his time was measured in billable hours and private elevators. As the founder of Maddox Tech, one of the fastest-growing fintech companies in the world, he was worth nearly $300 million and lived in a penthouse where winter was something you only watched from triple-glazed windows. But that day, something compelled him to walk. Maybe it was the exhaustion from board meetings or the pressure trying to sell his soul one spreadsheet at a time. Maybe it was the way his driver, for the first time in years, had called in sick. Whatever it was, Ethan decided to walk those 10 blocks. And fate was waiting. Halfway down 42nd Street, under the arch of Grand Central Station, he saw her. She was sitting cross-legged on the sidewalk with nothing but a tattered coat, a notebook in her lap, and a pen that moved like her life depended on it. Her hair was tied in a messy bun, her cheeks red from the cold, but her eyes, when she looked up, stopped Ethan in his tracks. They weren't the eyes of someone beaten by life. They were wide, alert, and impossibly kind. "Got $1?" she asked, her voice soft, almost embarrassed. Ethan reached into his coat and handed her a 20. She looked surprised. "That's too much." "Keep it," he replied. "What are you writing?" She hesitated, then closed the notebook gently. "Stories." "About what?" "People," she shrugged. "The ones no one sees." Something tugged at Ethan's chest. Without meaning to, he sat down beside her, ignoring the grime on the pavement. "You got a name?" he asked. "Sky." He laughed. "Sky? Like the sky? It's not my real name, but it's what I go by." And that's how it began. A millionaire and a homeless girl sitting in the cold, talking like old friends about art, hope, and why the world forgot how to care. Ethan came back the next day. And the next. He brought her coffee. She brought him stories. Each one etched in cheap paper, but heavy with truth. Stories of war veterans ignored by their own country. Of single mothers sleeping in buses. Of children who still smiled even though they hadn't eaten in days. And somehow Ethan, who had sat in rooms with presidents and investors, found more wisdom in Sky's stories than any TED Talk he'd ever heard. He didn't tell her who he was. She didn't ask. He liked that. Weeks passed. They started sharing lunch. He brought her notebooks. She gave him poems. She told him once that kindness was currency, and that it always came back. One evening, as snowflakes painted the sidewalks white, Ethan brought her a scarf. She blinked. "It's Burberry," she said, laughing. "You do realize I sleep next to a trash can?" "It's warm," he said simply, "and you deserve warm things." That night, he almost told her that he was rich, that he wanted to help her, that he hadn't stopped thinking about her for days. But the words died on his tongue, because Sky wasn't someone to be saved. She wasn't broken. She was surviving, and doing it with more grace than anyone he knew. Then she vanished. The next day, her spot was empty. The day after that, too. No scarf, no notebook, no goodbye. Ethan searched, asked around, paid people. Nothing. It was as if Sky had been a dream, one that left a hole in his chest and a silence he couldn't fill. He went back to his penthouse, to meetings, to dinners with people who talked about crypto and IPOs, and wore watches worth more than Sky's entire life. But he wasn't the same. He started a foundation, the Sky Project. Its goal? To fund art and education for homeless youth. He poured millions into it, visited shelters, told Sky stories. Even though no one knew her name, she became a symbol of something bigger, of humanity's forgotten heartbeat. 3 years passed. One warm spring afternoon, Ethan stood at Columbia University where the Sky Project had just awarded its first writing scholarship. He walked through the campus, thinking how far the journey had taken him from that snowy sidewalk. Then he saw her, under a blooming cherry blossom tree, surrounded by laughing students, was Sky. She wore a yellow sundress. Her hair was longer now, but it was her, He froze. She looked up. Their eyes met, and for a second, the world paused. "Ethan," she said, stepping forward. He nodded, unable to speak. "I wondered if you'd still recognize me," she smiled. "I thought I'd imagined you. I got into a program," she explained. "A lady who saw me writing outside Grand Central gave me a card. Said she worked with a community college. One thing led to another." He looked at her, stunned. "I never got a thank you," she continued. "Not for the money, for something bigger. For seeing me." Tears burned behind his eyes. "You changed my life, Sky. You still are." Then she did something unexpected. She handed him a book. On the cover, "The Girl Who Lived Under the Sky" by Sky Daniels. "You wrote a book?" "It's my stories. The ones I told you. I dedicated it to the man who believed my words were worth hearing." He opened the book. Inside the dedication, "To Ethan, you reminded me that even when you have nothing, you can still be everything." That was the moment, the one that undid him. Not because she had made it, but because she remembered him not for his wealth, but for his kindness. They sat under the tree for hours, talking, not about money, or loss, or where they'd been, but about where they could go from here. Epilogue. 1 year later, Sky and Ethan opened the Sky House, a safe creative haven for homeless youth writers across the country. It wasn't just a shelter, it was a launch pad. Sky's book became a bestseller. Ethan stepped down as CEO to run the Sky Project full-time. They never labeled what they were: partners, friends, maybe something more. But their bond was unshakable. Because in a city where millions pass each other without a glance, a millionaire saw a homeless girl not as broken but brilliant, and she proved him right.